a little over 1 million. And we'll be getting our second deposit July of next year. You all had I don't know if everyone did the webinar, but there's been many webinars in regards to this. And reading through the information, we provided some information for finance that we went through that Dan sent to everybody. And so we've been reading through the compliance and the reporting guides for the federal guidelines, which has given a lot of light to the situation. And I would really encourage you to incorporate the essential issues with this funding in regards to operating the county and the county building itself and some of the COVID. This main reason for this grant is mitigation of COVID and public safety. So I'd like you to keep that into consideration. We have had a lot of projects that are covered. We have found that are going to be covered and are available to be covered, but I would also like to see us look into the loss of revenue. There is a huge amount of hours and time and dollars that were paid out over the last few months since this, or the last year since this started, but we have had different departments getting paid through the pandemic, and those hours were paid out and the individuals were not here. And I'd like to see that compiled so we can see what our revenue loss was for the last year. And I don't know who was tracking that. I'd asked that from the beginning. I know different departments, some of them had tracked it, but I think it would be a good start before deciding on how to spend the money. There needs to be a plan, and I'd like to see a good group of people in that committee, if that's what your intention is.
Except on master scale?
Yeah.
I can have the
Cool. Yeah, that'll be helpful.
Yeah.
So we can at least start on that. That was my intention. If that's how you want to move forward, is to find out the loss of revenue. In regards to payroll, and see if we can't recoup some of those funds out of this. When you think back to how we were operating and the amount of dollars that we spent out for employees not being here and COVID lost time, and it's quite significant. So moving forward, I'd just like to say I hope that you include the key safety elements. People, the sheriff, the judge, 911, ambulance, our building itself. I'd like you to keep those things in mind.
Okay. Thanks, Cheryl.
The money, if I can ask, that money you put in a separate account and it's all by itself.
It came into our main account. We're setting up an account for that separately to be set. And there will be, working with the committee, we'll be making those decisions on how much we have until 2024. So we have, a couple of years. I know the interest rates aren't that great, but we'll be working with, I have a few different banks for investments that will be at least earning some interest on those funds.
During that webinar, they talked about using to figure out losses, using a 4% rule with an equation they had. It would be either find out what we actually lost or use that, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. Okay. So what you're suggesting with the payroll recoup, we go through and figure out if we could find more than that equation would bear, then we use that instead, right?
A realistic approach. I don't think it would hurt to go either way. We have we have time.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah, we definitely don't need to rush into anything, that's for sure. So, first and foremost, then, for my notes, is we need to identify as much as we can what we have into COVID. Whether it be, like Cheryl said, people being at home while still being paid during the first months. Any money you spent for equipment or anything else. We'll have to also identify what we already got grants to pay for. So we can't double down on that stuff, I'm sure. Okay. Well, I'll go next. To expand on what Cheryl said, no, we do have a lot of eyes turned towards the money here. $2 million isn't a lot of money. I mean, it feels like a lot of money. Well, we have $1 million right now, but I'm just saying $2 million when it comes to a $5 million budget for us and what portion we can actually use for general fund in the building. It's not a whole lot of money, so we can't really walk into this like a free for all situation. And it's probably our first priority, and I could be, it could be voted different. That's fine. But first priority would be to see what we can keep for general fund and things we need to get fixed, done, repaired, and for around here. Identify the monies, put it that way, before we can make decisions on how to use it. You know what I mean? Then once that's identified, we can take the outside interests. I say outside, it's everybody's interest, but the other elements.
Well, it could be small businesses. It could be charitable organizations, things that there may be a fraction of that amount of money that could be designated for them.
Right.
Providing they meet the criteria.
Well, another big one is they list as one of the criteria is you can use on a broadband. And I'm let Dan and the EDC chair expand more on that, but it would definitely be. I mean, we have a great opportunity here. Another thing I do want to mention, if you're listening, any township officials, there's been talk of not accepting the dollars from this plan, and I would encourage you to accept the money. You have a long time to figure out how to spend it. Put it in a bank account and squirrel it away. I know there's reporting. I know there's different things you have to do, but it's just better for your communities if you were to have this available, because what you can't think of today might pop up a year from now that, oh, you know what, we can use it for this, we can use it for that. So by no means I'm going to tell you how to run your business, but I would encourage you to accept the dollars. What else? So I think I've said already too much. Anybody else want to take over the mic here? Let's have Doug come in and give us a little spiel on the broadband stuff.
Can I sit up there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or I'll just sit here. I couldn't agree more with what you had to say about establishing a plan. I think we've heard it over and over. If you listen to any of the webinars or anything, they continually are pounding that message. Create a strategic plan. Don't rush into it. Put the money in the bank account and sort it out. So that being said, I just put together on the broadband side, this is strictly broadband side. I just put together a quick what we know and how they're looking at it within the plan. And we can go through this item by item, or I can just ask for questions. I think you all got this in your email. So
I think the best thing is for you to hit the highlights of what you feel is important, and then we can ask
these are
questions.
them.
Oh, okay.
Just go through them, Doug.
These are them. Okay, so the first thing is that broadband is quote unquote one of the 4 allowable uses for the money. So that's important because they were very specific about, water, sewer, broadband and some of the other things you're talking about, COVID relief. They look at underserved or not served communities as download speeds of 25 megabits and 3 up. They consider that absolutely unacceptable within this plan. They want to see a symmetrical 10 by 20, and they want to see scalability to 100 by 100. That's part of the requirement. So you have to go into it if you're going to spend money on broadband with providers that are going to be able to provide the 10 by 20. And then they will also have to show that that provider is capable of scaling and future-proofing up to 100 by 100 or more. Now, those all come with a caveat. You see it here. It says the exceptions are for lower speed due to geography and excessive costs. And those would have to be determined by study, you know, when the time comes. But the time is coming here where there's an awful lot of money that was flying around prior to this plan for providers. And there are a number of groups across the country, and there are a number of groups that have an eye on Northeast Michigan. And we're sort of sorting through that now. Actually, you're going to hear from somebody, I think it's next week.
Yep.
On the 7th.
Yeah, next Wednesday.
From PIE&G. They're doing a top flight program up there. And right now it's just for their customers, but they're looking to expand southward, westward, and the like. So just know that those are real requirements. So if you can't bring a provider into the mix that can hit these numbers, then if you spend the money, you'll have to give it back. So that's just a cautionary tale. I know we have a lot of legacy providers in the area, most of which are unable to hit these numbers. But we didn't set the standards. If we want to spend the money somewhere along the way, we have to go with what they want. The fund distributions for, this is pretty well read out in the stuff you've read about the timeframes of projects being committed by the 31st of December in 2024. Money must be spent by that same date in 2025. And if you don't use it, then take it back. I also wanted to mention that we have not seen any regulations in there, and we've been through it quite a bit about interest accrued, and that they're not asking for the interest back on that money right now. Now, it's subject to change without notice. It's the government, right? But right now, the best place for that money is in the Treasury account. And so to Adam's point about the township folks that don't want to go through the hassle or whatever, it's basically a 5-year insurance policy that what they're giving you right now. So plunking it in a bank account and not doing a thing with it until something comes across the transom that you want to do, that'll be the best use of that money. The funds distribution for township, cities, and villages for populations less than 50,000, which we qualify for. And I haven't heard yet what census data they're going to use, whether it's going to be 19 or 20, but that's going to get determined pretty quickly here.
They used the 20.
They use 20? Okay, there you go.
They did.
Breaking news.
They used the May 10th date.
Yeah, well, I saw the list that came out, and so I made some assumption they must have settled on one of those two. So there you go. The funds for the county obviously go from the U.S. Treasury. The funds for those other units of government, the local units, are all going to be coming from the state. State will get a big tranche of money, and then they'll decide, you know, how that money, well, it's been decided, but they'll control the money and how it comes out when it comes out and that type of thing. It doesn't affect the timeline though. Those federal timelines are real. So hopefully the legislature doesn't take forever to figure out the plan to roll the money. Let's see. Okay, so that's sort of just current from the broadband point of view. What I also did was I went through and I pulled up the last webinar link and a few other links, some of which you have to go in and kind of give them your email and register and that type of thing. But That gives everybody the best opportunity to get, sort of the breaking news as it's rolling out. It's very fluid right now. And I just wanted to be sure everybody had some place to look. A little bit on the local units of government, the townships in particular. When Adam told me that was a little frightening, because if you look at those 11 townships and you just do the math, that's $1 million sitting there. And if for some reason down the road that they determine, not this group telling them how to spend or me, but if they can figure out a way to coalesce the 11 townships and put that money to good use on the broadband side, you're going to get a lot of attention from the providers. And so it's just something to keep in the back of your mind. I mean, I understand that they spend their money the way they want to, but I think it's important for you, this group, to give them as much information as you can, keep them in regular communication. If I can help with, the committee can help with that, we will. We'll keep trying to provide you with as much as we can that can help you give some of that information out. But this is a once in a lifetime opportunity for the county in terms of broadband. Those providers that are getting the big dollars are really reputable and strong, and you'll see that next week in the presentation. I wouldn't put somebody in front of you that I didn't think would show you kind of what's possible. So that's that. And I'm going to call this my quarterly report because I don't have much more to say except the study for the county starts in August, and that's going to take about 90 to 120 days. And we'll get those results. Those will be available to us along with a roadmap that will speak to, in some cases, that statement about geography and that type of thing and cost. Mainly because we are in a topographically challenged area in some cases. But we also have a vertical asset study in our back pocket too that NEMCOG did. So we're going to have a lot of information for providers that they would normally have to go out and dig on their own, and it would really slow the process up.
You're referring to the ground-based assets?
Yes.
For the broadband?
Assets, yeah. And I'm actually having a conversation about what's today, Tuesday, Thursday, with Rich Castle from Consumers, and suggest with his pole group. That's a group that handles just the poles, the infrastructure. And that's the advantage that Presque Isle has right now, is they have already built-in infrastructure. They own all their poles. And talking to them about the possibility of a co-opetition agreement between them and Consumers, so that we don't have to be dealing with how do we put in the infrastructure. But that's a long shot because Consumers is in 67 counties, and the first comment I got when I mentioned that was, well, if we do it for you, we have to do it for everybody. I said, well, put some criteria on it. If they're that underserved like we are, then they would deserve something like that. Wouldn't that make sense? A lot of long pauses at the other end of the phone. So I don't know where they're going to go with that. But we will have the CEO of Presque Isle here too during that presentation, and Tom Stevenson from Connect Michigan.
Are they going to be here in person?
Yes, I believe they're planning on being here in person, and the person that's heading up the effort for Presque Isle is a woman named Ruth Ann Largent. She's very good. I think you saw this presentation, didn't you? It's going to give you a really good view of what's possible in the county. So, questions?
Doug, I haven't really looked for this, but the thought just crossed my mind. It seems to me what I have seen, there's pretty much a parallel of requirements between what's for the township and what's for the county.
Requirements meaning
Well,
service?
Yeah, what you can do and can't do with it. And I realize there's a lot of unanswered questions,
Right.
of course, right now, but is that going to be pretty parallel?
Well,
think
yeah,
so?
I think we're going to have all the information that's going to tell us if would be parallel or not. This was always going to be an amalgam of solution here, just because of, I said earlier, it's a topography and everything, all things considered. The one thing that will come out of the broadband study that starts in August is they will produce a roadmap of solutions. So they'll actually tell us in certain areas of the county where one thing just isn't going to work, but here are 3 other possibilities. Then you have to go find providers that hit these bogeys.
Right, right.
So it's going to give us a lot of information to work with. So.
Are the guidelines, I think Carol was touching on that, are the guidelines on how to use the money the same for the townships as for the county?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, there's no difference. We're
There's no
all bound by the same
There's
drop
no
dead
difference.
dates,
Okay.
right? And
Thank you.
That's what I think.
Yeah. I guess I didn't understand your question.
I didn't express it properly.
But as always, any questions or any thoughts or any ideas about how you think we can move?
I would just comment, I'm very glad you are on board.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm enjoying the opportunity, and I think the goal here is to, raise up the possibilities here in the county for this. There's just no good reason for us to be in this situation. So we'll tackle it one step at a time, and
Yep.
we'll get there.
Thank
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Good report there, Doug.
Maybe the clerk next.
Well, I received an email from the Register of Deeds, and she wanted to talk about something she had in mind. I think we could spare a few minutes for that if you want
Yeah.
to. If you're ready, are you even ready to talk about that or no? I know I didn't answer your email and say, yeah, you can talk or not, but
I mean, well, I can.
just touch on it briefly.
Just briefly, I mean, I have, I know that there have been other registers who have had success with using the grant monies for some of this to bring the older records into an electronic format so that they can be searched off-site, which helped with the whole COVID pandemic issue. So I was working to put together some information on, costs for such a thing. I mean, I have documents from approximately 1967 to 1980 that could be indexed in order to be accessible, which would take then the records available to someone offsite back to the year 1967. Right now, it's just 1980. There's also some other projects I have contemplated doing, and that's the scanning of the grantor grantee index so that it would be usable on the computer instead of having to actually access the book. So those are just kind of my thoughts, and I can get you some more definite information if you would like.
And you said there are other registered deeds that are already using the funds to do this?
I have heard that, I can't even name exactly who, but I do know that there have been some registers who have had success using the grant monies to help to,
Okay.
bring their older documents
If
to
you-
a current format, and I can inquire on that and
Yeah.
get some information.
Yeah, if you can try to confirm and get some information, anything we can bring to the table for possibility to use. I wanted to acknowledge that I did get your information. I appreciate you that you're thinking about it.
No, I just didn't know about the other people in the room.
Clerk has some information here that you brought forward.
Yeah, Stephanie, you want to tell us about what the other counties are doing here?
I have a lot more emails, but a lot of it's just mainly conversation back and forth
Yep.
and more questions. So I just kind of cut and pasted the ones. First of all, for the funds to be set up, some were doing resolutions, some did it by motion, some didn't do anything. So that was, is that already created for that one, the resolution or motion?
I had asked for a resolution if it was included.
There is an actual example right in the very middle of a resolution from Oceana County.
Thought I had sent that to everybody. To create the fund.
Yeah, to create funds, yeah.
Okay,
We didn't
the other
vote on
one
it
were
last
just
time?
some of the committees that counties were using. It's kind of.
No,
the
we
treasurer
voted to.
was A lot of it.
No,
I remember.
I don't have Montmorency on here, but that was also what they were doing.
we didn't do that. We
Montcalm
just,
and Roscommon.
all we've done so far is just made a motion that we apply for the.
Apply for the money.
That's all we've done so far.
So, yes,
The second one
Yeah, Cheryl sent us a resolution. We'll have to put that on the agenda for next Wednesday. So you have kind of a cross section of 1, 2, 3, 4, about 10, 12 counties here. And it seems like mostly they just came back and said what they did with the money for now, but nobody's got any kind of real plan. It's just like us. They don't know what they can spend it on yet.
Like I said, most of the emails were more questions than anything.
There's 4 distinct categories then in there. It's there, and some of it is interpretation, but some of the projects that we have completed already, and there have been mention of a few more projects. I believe that would be a good idea to review once you establish your committee.
All right. Anybody else have any good information to share? Sheila, do you have any extra information you want to talk about, or are you just basically what Cheryl's already? Yeah. Scott, have you put any thought in?
Yeah, I have, and matter of fact, I've drafted up a list of things that, some of them very COVID related and some not so much COVID related that I printed out enough to hand out. So if you want, I can go through them a little bit with you, and some of these may meet the criteria that you're talking about. I'm not as familiar with the criteria as.
Yeah, let's go over. That's why we're here today.
But these are things, some of these things are gonna have to happen with or without this money. And certainly not today or tomorrow, but in the future at some point. And some of them don't. One of the things I've got listed towards the middle is like body cams, and that's not like a today or tomorrow thing. At some point, that's becoming not a nice to have. It's going to be a have to have in the police world. I'm listening to court testimony upstairs every week that says the defense attorney's first question to my officers every time is, do you have body cam or dash cam video footage of this? When the answer is no, the inference is always, well, you must be lying if there's not footage of that. So liability wise, that's going to be a real issue. At some point, we're going to have to find funds to buy these. I do see that some people are getting these through Homeland Security grants. Those are becoming more and more competitive. And a grant of $80,000 to them is quite a bit for a small county like us to be asking of that grant. The first thing I've listed on there, the HVAC in the jail, I think that's going to fit the COVID almost to the T. That jail right now is sweating like a toilet bowl because it's not properly heated and vented and cooled. If you go down the hallway, the floors are wet because it sweats like a toilet bowl. It's not adequately heated in the spring and the fall because there's something wrong with the heating system over there. If we had some more time, I could have Dave explain that to you, but there's something wrong with the boiler that was set up that it doesn't operate properly. It never has since we put it in. I'm not looking to get air conditioning for the inmates or anything like that, but the ventilation's a big thing.
Yeah.
Our vents are cleaned out once or twice a year, typically before DOC inspections. We're not entirely sure how that system works. There's a couple switches here and there. We flick them on. They're above the toilet or above the shower in the cells. It's inadequate for what we're talking about. I have a new fence and gate for the jail system, security system around the jail. Again, I don't know that that's going to be real COVID related, but it's a security thing. And what I'm looking at doing is between my building and the old ambulance barn, putting a rolling gate there so that people can't drive right up into our Sally Port. The next one is the live scan fingerprinting in our lobby. Right now, I take people from the general public inside of our jail, inside the secure facility. Typically, they're decent people because they're applying for work or CPLs or whatever, but we have to bring them into a secure facility to fingerprint them. I've moved a couple other things, including the drug testing outside of there. The inmate visits, they no longer come into our jail to visit. This is the last link that I have of security breach for my jail is people coming in to get fingerprinted. if we can fingerprint them in the lobby, they don't have to come into jail. That's safer for them, safer for us. And if they happen to have COVID, it also keeps that from coming into our jail. I mentioned the body cameras on the second page pretty well. I've listed some things in there that are benefits to having those, and you can read those on your own, in your own time. And again, I think that if COVID is a requirement for this grant money to be spent on, I think that it's pretty loose there. I'm not gonna push that hard because I think that's a little bit loose. My fleet is a little bit short of what we need to be doing, particularly in the summertime when we have all these patrols, grant-funded patrols running all over the place. We come up a little bit short on vehicles, particularly on the weekends, and if there's a transport to be done or anything like that. Unfortunately, during COVID, we can't get parts to fix our cars. So we hit a deer last November, and it just got fixed about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Ford shut down production of certain parts. Some parts they had, some parts they didn't. The part in the front of the grill that absolutely holds the front bracket on there was not available. So we went 6 months on one vehicle and over 2 on another one, just for a general car deer repair. Is that COVID related? Kinda, because COVID caused us to be sitting here waiting for that. Theoretically, if our car has a COVID patient in it, which we have had on several occasions, they got to be taken out of commission and taken somewhere and properly cleaned and serviced. Those circumstances cause us to be without patrol vehicles that need to be out there. I've got 2 listed down there. That would put it, basically have enough for most of the guys to drive around with having 1 here for transports too. Although my goal is not to put cars in everybody's driveway, but my goal is to have cars out there on patrol when they need to be. And even if we have a couple down and out for a little while, we can still manage that. And another thing I've got going on is we've done real well in equipping our cars even before COVID so that the guys could work from the cars and not have to do so much work in the office. My goal in law enforcement is to have the cars out on the road where they can be seen and those nice big stickers on the cars be seen by the public. And COVID pushed us a little bit to do that. And we got the guys out there working out of the cars for the most part. Now that COVID's relaxed a little bit, our guys are still out there working quite a bit, but when they're doing their longer reports, it's not feasible to ask a guy to write a 10 or 12 page police report sitting like this in a car. This isn't good for us. John says he can set up workstations remotely fairly inexpensively where they can go in and sit down and plug into a workstation with a monitor, a printer, a mouse, and a keyboard. I'd like to do that at 3 or maybe 4 different places around the county at county spots or township partners that would give us a desk to work at, basically a desk and a docking station that we would put in out there. John says he can do those for about $600 each. So that would be kind of the next step in the remote working and being out there in the community. So it does 2 things for me. It keeps my guys out of the office where theoretically they could spread COVID to each other more readily, but it also puts people out there on the streets and more visible. And that's what I want. I want our cars to be out there and seen. I think I'm getting upstaged a little bit by that Blue Goose that sits in Lincoln for a few hours every week. And I'd sure like to have one sitting over there every week too. But the former undersheriff preached it to no end, but we don't get to Curtis Township or Mitchell Township like we should. And I think I could put a workstation out there in that library pretty easily and have somebody visible and out there all the time, or at least a lot more of the time. Those are some of the things I came up with just in a few days. All of them are pretty much cost estimates. The body camera is pretty much a quote that is fairly accurate for what's going on. And like I say, some of these fit COVID a lot closer than other ones do. But I think a lot of these could be considered, and I'm certainly not expecting to get all of them or most of them, but something to look at.
Are them body cameras when it says over 5 years? Is that like a lease or is that?
Yeah, it's like a use program where you're paying over the course of 5 years, but it's the data storage, it's the warranty for if they break down or have to be replaced or anything like that. But they spread the payment over 5 years. And this is, I think, a 4-year plan. I mean, if you want to talk to them about a 4-year plan, I don't think they would blink an eye at that.
Is that something that we really don't own the cameras? It's kind of right through them. They replace them if they break. all that kinds of stuff.
They replace them if they break, but I think you own them. Yeah, and I think there's some criteria for disposing of those when you're done. And I don't know if you have to give those back or properly dispose of them, but they don't want them floating around in the public. So
Yeah.
that was for local storage. The other program for cloud storage was quite a bit more expensive, and Mr. Hardley convinced me he can adequately store all my data.
I'm pretty sure I was told that that's all right.
Yeah. In looking into it, the preference is for us is to store that locally rather than on the cloud, and it appears to be quite a bit cheaper.
What are the upkeep costs on the on body cameras?
It's included in that.
Which you just indicated.
Yeah, that's included for that 5-year program. It's included, those costs.
Probably pay a yearly subscription or something like that, you know.
I'm sorry, Adam, what was that?
Is it a lease, you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's I think it's more like a rental
Yeah.
program.
So if something breaks, they send you a new one, blah, blah, yeah.
Yeah, and what that is, that package is it's a combo dash cam, body cam, so that your dash cam is going, when you get out of the car and go remote out of the side of the car, your body cam.
Yeah. Well, thanks for putting this together. That's really good. I mean, that's above and beyond what I thought we were gonna see today, so.
Well,
awesome.
and I may be jumping ahead. I mean, it doesn't sound like the committee's quite far, but
Well, it's not, yeah,
this is what I'd like to bring to the committee.
but this is the kind of stuff we need to get started because it's gonna be important that we identify, as I think of sitting here thinking about it, we're gonna have to identify priority 1 projects or things. I don't even want to say this, but regardless of if it applies or qualifies for the funds, do a list of everything that's critical.
Right.
And then go through and assess it all, which is a daunting task, but
Yeah.
it needs to be done.
And it is because I don't envy having to do that. Okay, we're around for it.
Yeah, no, this is good. This is really good stuff. Yeah.
So you guys know leases are not covered under these funds.
Right, so if we were to do something like a squad car, it'd have to be an out purchase.
Purchase them.
Yeah.
Same with the body cam.
Yeah, and I
Oh.
think the wording on that might not be lease. It's
Right.
more of a purchase program where you're purchasing the whole.
And they just guarantee it that they replace something right.
But they're changing their language as we set.
Yeah.
I'm sure they are, because I don't think I'm probably the only sheriff sitting in front of people over the next course of a month or so, asking for certain things like this.
So really,
It's 15%. What we're getting, 321,000.
what is?
What he's asking.
Oh, all of this.
Oh, I know. It's not, we're not, in the grand scope of things, we're not getting that much money. All right.
This is very good.
Yeah, no, this is awesome. Well, this is what we need because my thoughts on the whole thing have been we're going to have to spend the first few months just identifying everything that we should do and then going back through and finding out what can apply. And
And pairing out what's not.
Yeah.
Right.
or deciding to pay for these some other way because we need to do it still. Okay, anything else, Scott?
No, I don't say that.
How about,
Like, one more thing.
Yeah.
We talked a bit about payroll a little bit ago. All of my payroll lost during COVID. The overtime I paid people to come in and work, that was reimbursed through a different grant. So
Yeah.
when we were talking about loss, I mean, I had people off that were still being paid because they were on quarantine or whatever, but the overtime we backfilled them with has been reimbursed to the county and still being reimbursed through the end of September.
right.
But there's
Oh,
other,
it's
but there
through
are
the end
other,
of September it's going to be?
Yeah, the CESF grant goes to the end of September.
Oh, okay.
So we have one billing cycle that's due the end of this month, and then one at the end of September.
So, well, we still identify all the things and then go back through and see what can qualify. Okay. No, thank
So
you.
my overtime's been reimbursed to the straight.
straight hand hasn't, yeah.
No,
That hasn't.
they were off and we didn't charge them sick
So-
time or anything, so I guess.
That's something that could be figured out though.
Very easily,
Yeah.
And the CRLGG funds, the replacement money for revenue sharing was spent Well, the 92,000.
Yeah, yep. Okay, Scott Rice, you got anything?
I sent this to the commissioners some time ago, but I bring it back again in a hard copy format. And it parallels along the lines of what Cheryl said earlier, COVID and public safety. The COVID expenses that EMS incurred was covered by our CARES Act money, so I really don't have any COVID expenses, if you will, under that. But to play off of what Doug Cheek said is, we gotta have fiber optic into that EMS EOC building. I'm the only one in the building, and I'm on a Zoom meeting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and the screen freezes up. It may freeze up for 2 seconds, it may freeze up for 60 seconds. And nowadays, with everybody doing Zoom and meetings and remote, you can't keep up with what is needed. Number two, that's our EOC for the county. If I bring 15 people into that building, everybody's gonna have a minimum of 2 devices, phone and a laptop or a Chromebook. The system can crash and we're not gonna be able to function. Generator wise, we're fine. I think we need to upgrade it. The generator, I think, is 20 years old, which is when the building was built. That I have planned into the budget in the latter part of 23, 24 to get that generator replaced. I think we need some more TVs in that EOC for weather, local news, those type of things, that if we do open up that EOC and use it to its maximum potential, we need to have more screens and more visibility. Also, along the lines with public safety, we need 14 new AEDs in the county. The sheriff's office has 7, approximately. They're 12 to 15 years old. I doubt that they've gone through the updates, because every 5 years, American Heart kind of changes the protocols on CPR and AEDs and the do's and the don'ts. And I'm not sure that those have been followed through and had those updates. The pads for those sheriff's office AEDs are getting harder to come by, that they're not out there, they're not popular. We need 2 AEDs in this building, one on the upper and one on the lower floor. We have one on the upper floor currently, and that's one of the EMS AEDs that we're using up there. And I think we need them in the 4 libraries and spread it out throughout the county. We tried to get some mechanical CPR devices when we had the block grant, and we were back and forth with the auditor and the project manager, and they didn't qualify at the end. It was too complicated to get it to work. I think that that's very much needed, especially out on the west side of the county, where Curtis Township and Glennie area don't have first responders. We need a mechanical CPR device. The sheriff's office helps us out a lot out there in the west end of the county, but it's something we really, really need, one on each of the primary vehicles. And lastly is our community paramedic program. We got some money from the DDA here in recent weeks. I think we can use that money to supplement and help that out for the remainder of this year. But for 2022 and 23, and it's still a part-time program, it's not a full-time person. We have 5 community paramedics on the payroll. 3 of the 5 are full-time, the other 2 are part-time medics, to try to make this program work. And we're getting great feedback from people that make it 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And it's kind of COVID related, where we did a lot of checkups on COVID. We administered some vaccines during the COVID vaccine period. But I think it's a necessary step to prevent those unnecessary, unneeded trips to the emergency room. If we can fix things here in the county, rather than everybody's got to go to the hospital, I think that's what we need to do. I gave you some prices. Those are pretty close to estimates. I've got a couple of quotes on the AEDs and the mechanical CPR devices. John's given me information on the fiber into our building from Merit. And in his opinion, that is the best provider to go with at this moment. I don't know what Doug's found out or what other providers we can find, but I'm open to suggestions. Frontier is terrible to work with. The internet goes out, oh, we'll get to you next Monday. No, next Monday's not good enough. we're a 24/7, 365 operation. I need my phones, I need my internet, I need broadband into that building to function. And if we've got to wait 3 to 5 days to get things fixed because it's old, antiquated, underrated equipment, then that's not going to benefit the county in any way, shape, or form. But we gotta bring that building up to speed along with the other county buildings with the fiber optic and things. All I have.
Okay.
Another list.
Thank you.
Good, thank you very much for putting that together. Well, let's just go right down the line. Dave, what do you got?
I don't have anything right at the moment. I was kind of caught off guard on this. I was busy with another project last week, and so I didn't really get any hard numbers together, but I am slowly putting some stuff together.
Yeah.
Numbers and projects that we can use.
I would, and I think you've compiled this for us in the past. Just pull up the old list and rearrange it to highest to lowest priority. And then
Our still
whatever we
highest
can,
priority in this particular building is the actual roof itself.
Yeah.
That's our number one concern here. But I don't know if that's COVID related, but I mean, that's still our number one issue on this building here at this point in time.
Is it time to get a hard quote on that?
It did. I got one in 2019. It was $67,000.
It needs to be updated though.
I'll call them back and we can get it updated with current prices and stuff like that.
yeah, it's $100,000 now probably.
Mainly the big issue with this building is it no longer meets code. And once we crack open the roof, we have to strip it all the way down to the sub deck. We have to insulate with X amount of insulation and then put the new roof on top of it.
Right.
We have 3 different levels of roofs on the roof, so it's not one continuous plane. So those things add into the cost. And that was for a 20-year warranty on the roof.
And then Cheryl, you thought that roof would fall into the criteria of this grant money, right?
Well, it's the functioning of the building. How can we provide services if we can't function?
Right. Okay.
But that is another one that needs to be investigated further. We'll do that. And the maintenance on the building is a well-needed project, but we will, as we go along and determine what is valid infrastructure in I think that would be, I agree with Adam because his priority listing of needs for the county and different things.
I think this,
They're falling under the proper
yeah.
guidelines that we can
Like I
utilize.
said, I'll put the whole list together with the numbers and the current updates and stuff. Like I said, then we'll pick and choose, figure out what actually falls into the criteria.
Yeah, as far as anything goes with what we need, we just need to have a list of probably everything that is the high priority stuff to get done, and then go back through and see what applies. And it's gonna be long, but we have a few years to figure it out, so a couple of years. So, all right, Dave, thanks. How about 911? You got any good information?
One of the good things is that we've been updating over the last couple of years, and so I don't have any major projects that we're looking at the moment. There's a couple of small projects, a repeater system for radios within the building, because portable radios for the sheriff's department don't work within the building. I've been looking at that, which is a $16,000. The other is updating my radios. They're due for an update, and that's about a $10,000 cost to help us continue to provide good coverage throughout the county. We just need updating. I will just indicate that the ELC, I think, is an important part of our operation, and getting fiber into that ELC, I think, is a pretty important thing for communication for all of us. And if we end up having some kind of a major issue within the county, wildfire, tornado, we would certainly need the ELC, and I think that communication-wise, that's imperative that we have that up and running. So I would highlight that as one of the main concerns too. So we're doing pretty good as far as materials and things like that.
What about
Been upgrading.
bidirectional amplifier. Is that still on your list?
That's what he just mentioned.
That's a booster, yeah.
It's
they're
one of
the
the
single
okay.
booster. That's-
A repeat.
Yeah, I gave Carolyn a couple of things that, and like I said,
Okay.
one is 16,000.
It sounded kind of like it, but then I wasn't sure.
Well, maybe also talk to employees and talk to other 911 providers around us and see if there's any kind of technology that we may not have considered, because you know how it is. We don't have any money. We can't even think about that. But maybe there's some technology out there that we could use.
I'll check with us.
Yeah, and just throw a list together like Scott did.
Okay.
And yeah.
If you need something for your list, I'll put a couple of it in yours.
Yeah.
You guys can share your list.
Yeah. Of course.
Sharing now, isn't that nice?
Yeah, but I think I think it would be interesting to find out. You know how it goes, because we're a poor county, blah blah blah. That would be great to have, but we can't even think about that right now. But maybe we can now. So something to think about. Cheryl.
I'd like to ask that you contact the individual fire departments, because I know communications is a big
Oh,
issue
yeah.
between the fire departments and the townships. And with the funds that they're receiving, not only the broadband projects and those kind of things that they may be exploring, but the communication issue.
You're right.
is-
We do have some 800 issues with some of the fire departments that are lacking some of the resources and things like that. Several fire departments have been able to upgrade their radios, and they work great, but we're still using two different systems for the fire departments right now, a high band radio and the 800 radio, and I'd love to have everybody on the 800s, but so far that hasn't been able to happen because of funding. And I know a lot of the fire departments have gotten portable radios, but they don't have the radios in their rigs to be able to communicate with us through the 800 system. So I would imagine that each fire department probably is lacking.
That's actually a very good point. I would encourage both you and Scott Rice to reach out to, because that's our only source for firefighting in this county. We don't have a county-based firefighting system, and see if you can get some research some ways to make that an easier
And that might be
situation.
in other places, like you said, that the townships might, if they've got some funding.
Yeah,
might be
exactly right.
to spend.
But you starting that conversation
Yeah.
might spark them to go, oh, and you could say, your township's getting some money. They could go to their board and say, I've talked to them, and they said we could maybe use this for this, and it would make
I
them.
attend all the fire association meetings, and we have one coming up, and I will make sure that.
Yeah, this is-
I'll do some emails too.
This is a conversation that Scott and Jeff and I have been having with fire for the last couple of years, and money has been the holdback from some of the fire departments. So this is probably a great opportunity for us to push again, and maybe they can use some of their township money for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I think that's a good way to run forward. And if any of you guys meeting with these different organizations want some backup, call me up. I'll go with you, whatever you want to do. So. Okay, great. Thank you. That's good stuff. Let's see. I guess we're down to John. He's got that look in his eye like available, circling the money.
Projects. With COVID came a lot of bad actors doing ransomware, this, that, the other on small municipalities like us. And one of the options is to get a better backup system. We have a pretty good one now, and also piggyback on Scott's stuff to back up his cameras and have enough room. Having a backup system for each building that is close to impenetrable has been a topic of discussion for a lot of the municipalities, and it would be a nice option for us to have something like that. They would probably run about $15,000 to $20,000 a piece, and it would give us the option to not really have to. There's always the worry, and it's always a possibility to have your backups encrypted, but this takes that percentage and makes it a little small. And then the other option that you piggyback on his would be a new Wi-Fi system for the both buildings. The current one is aging and needs to be replaced. within the next year or two.
Okay.
Give the opportunity for, Wi-Fi in the parking lots. We're gonna have jury selection and, here, and having them attached to our Wi-Fi just isn't feasible with its current makeup. So we had to nix we have just doing some, remote jury trials at the county. That's about the only two projects that I have currently, possibly replace a server or two.
About the kiosk machines and the cost to put them in both places.
Yeah, the Bill Thompson,
Whoever it is.
whatever this guy is. Bill just brought up the 2 kiosk machines for getting the building, but
Right.
we would include that in the
And
COVID
the-
funding
yeah,
for sure.
This Polycom is, had issues this morning, we got it up and running. To have a, remote camera microphone set the other for the TV here versus the Polycom.
Yeah, because you didn't get it to me before. That's a lot more expensive to maintain that subscription.
This one, it's about $600 a year to maintain just the Polycom aspect of it.
Right. Whereas we just have one-time purchase of
About $1,500
materials.
for this room and the
Yeah.
courtroom.
So it'd be a lifetime. Okay, well, I would encourage, if you could, get something down on paper and prioritize from best to worst, and everybody. I don't think we go out and flood all the contractors with RFQs and try to get quotes for all this stuff. But if you can get your best hip shot of what it's going to cost and add 10%, so we have something to work from. You know what I mean? Because if we start asking for quotes for everything, they're already a burdened contractor system, so they're going to be months before they get back to us with that stuff. But if you can say, hey, what do you think about this? They come back with, well, ballpark this, add 10%, and we'll have some numbers to at least play with.
What do you mean by a new Wi-Fi system? Explain.
The Wi-Fi for this building and the building across the way is about 5 years old, and it's adequate for what we're currently using it for to a point. But unfortunately, the hardware, it has an end of life on probably 3/4 of it. It means that it's a security issue and they're no longer going to support it. The Wi-Fi we have body cams, you would have Wi-Fi outside of the building broadcasting out. So when his cars drive up, they're automatically dumping their body cam footage and right into the servers here. When we were going to do the jury trials, we were going to have as many people as we could in their cars waiting on Zoom while we could fit as many people in the courtroom and using our Wi-Fi. In our current makeup, we couldn't sustain that. It wouldn't work.
No, like I said, throw it on that priority list. And, everybody who's here, I can't even tell if anybody's. I didn't log into
I
it.
didn't see anybody on
All
there.
right. We don't have anybody from the public to talk to. Not that we were accepting public comment, but if there was, I was going to entertain it. All right. Well, anybody else?
Yeah, I think Court had something, doesn't
Oh, no, I'm
just listening, okay.
Yeah.
Not quite.
the only thing I
That's
wanted
treasurer.
to mention is just, we do have some projects that we've already completed that would be covered under, I think, June, I looked into it, March
March
1st?
March the 1st or 31st.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know like the water and sewer over at the jail was just completed, that is something that can be covered under
This money?
this money, kiosks, that can be covered. So just to kind of, I know there's been projects that are already in the works and completed, but that is just an idea.
Yeah, it's good. We should identify those. March 31st of 2021.
Yes.
Okay.
It's March.
Such as a kiosk that was just ordered,
Yeah.
that would be covered.
And possibly the wall that you're gonna have
The
on the
installation of
outside.
the wall, that's all part of the project.
Phone system possibly, as long as we try out, right? Can't be set up.
We can, I can see if we
Depending
can.
on when the contract. is up.
Correct. Yeah. But just-
There was an option for buyout.
There is an option just to buy.
If it applied, we could do that and just be done with it. But it's worth looking into. Well, yeah, once it's installed, right?
Well, the lease doesn't hit until it's actually, put in place on July 15th. And we could circumvent that before the 15th, I would imagine.
Something to explore once the
Yeah.
committee is formed.
Yeah. Well, and that's the last thing we do today, but I was gonna let other commissioners throw in comments and suggestions and things, anything they've been dreaming about over the last while when this big pot of money was first proposed.
My only concern is if we look at within house first and then try to apply any we can to our communities that have had stress from the COVID situation. And they're gonna, townships are getting theirs, but there's restaurants and there's charitable organizations that haven't gotten their full donations because of loss of work from the people, but they all have to follow through the same thing. If they could give a list of things that they think, and we can put it in a priority list of just like we're doing here.
And there are COVID funds available. There are ARPA funds available to small businesses.
Right. And sometimes we may need to be the one that directs those small businesses to it because we get quite a bit of information, and some of maybe our local restaurants or our establishments don't always have that communication. And
Which is where the EDC can come in, and that's how that used to happen, was you were working with the community projects and the different businesses to educate them on opportunities for those businesses. And this is a huge opportunity that you can recoup wages and
Right.
lost revenue, and there's a lot of money out there for small business and the impact of COVID, a lot.
We also could probably engage the Chamber of Commerce to do that too.
Mhm.
They are directly connected to a lot of the businesses.
Absolutely.
So.
Small
I would-
businesses
I would
too.
Get them up here and talk to them about that as well.
At least let people aware.
Not discounting your thoughts at all, because it is important to be community-based, but we do have a lot of certain criteria here that could be met.
Right.
as well.
And I agree, but that we don't have, the $2 million sounds like a lot, but it doesn't go very far.
We spent that already plus more just
Yeah.
now. This pile of paper is already like $3 million. So
Yeah.
Adam, for me.
Yeah.
This has been really a good meeting. We've got a really good representation here from the county, and I think we need to establish a committee,
yeah, I agree.
So I think that's really the next order of business is get a committee established and let them meet, start doing that, and then be able to report back and, do that stuff. I think that's what we need to do.
We do. Well, we can't do any motions today to try to officially do something, but we do need a list of people who are willing to step up and do it.
What are you looking
Do
at
we
as
need-
far as who's on the committee? I mean,
Well, I mean, if the first problem is you can't have more than two commissioners, because then every time the committee gets together, you have to call a meeting. So that's the first problem. So two commissioners can be on the committee for sure. I mean, ideally everybody, but we can't do that because we can't call a public meeting every time we're going to get together. I think, we need to have leadership from emergency services for sure. 911, sheriff, ambulance. We need somebody from building and grounds on the committee. Treasurer for sure, because she's the one touching all the money. And
Maybe the clerks of her recording so far.
yeah, clerk.
I would think Doug.
EDC.
Yeah, the EDC should have a seat.
You're the representative for the EDC, so as a commissioner,
Yeah.
you just got two hats, 2 points.
I take my hat off.
Look at she's.
What about Tom?
Tom
legal
should be,
representation.
Yeah, Tom should be part of it.
How many people are you putting on this thing?
You should get somebody from the chamber. That goes to what Bill's saying. I think we should. Maybe Ben would do it.
I don't think we really need a motion to form this committee. I mean, it's just putting a committee together. I mean, why would we need to make a motion to form a committee?
It depends. Are we gonna, is it a volunteer committee or are they gonna get stipends or how's it work?
No, it's a volunteer committee.
Okay, I'm just asking. I'm just
It'd be a
asking.
volunteer
Should we also have invite someone from the court system?
Yeah, we should have Jennifer or somebody. I think it had to be Jennifer.
Yeah.
We should sit in part of it.
You may want to have this an official committee, and the reason that I say that is that when you go back and your recommendations will be coming from not just a group of people,
Yeah,
but a designated group.
I was starting to think that too. Instead of have 12, a 15 person, maybe keep it down to 6 or 7.
I think you are restrictive. I think that I realize 10 or 12, getting them together is a little more
Need to have
challenging.
that.
But if you set a date and initiate arbitrarily the third or the second Wednesday of the month, or second and fourth Wednesdays or something, and just do one of the monkey
Doug has
surveys
something.
as to who can do it.
Yeah.
You might think about just setting a core committee of a half dozen and let them appoint subcommittees to work on various areas.
That's kind of what I was thinking too.
Herd all the cats into one room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Sure, committee already got big. I mean, just in talking a few of it, it's like, whoa.
Well, and I think bringing the chamber in is a smart idea, but I don't know if they need to be.
I think it'd be a sub.
Yeah, it could be.
I think that would be a.
Yeah, that's a business and community.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we need 2 commissioners. Buildings and grounds for sure. You stop me. I'm not trying to make the decision here. I'm just trying to throw.
Sheriff for sure.
Sheriff for sure. We need Scott Rice for sure. Treasurer for sure.
Well, court could be a subcommittee though, I think.
Yeah, we have court on, so, well. What are we up to already?
That's 6.
You're actually acting as a subcommittee right now because you're putting together your needs.
Right,
Same with
right,
you.
right.
So it's just a matter of reporting to the smaller group, just what you were asking for earlier. I mean, I don't want to get in the middle of how you're gonna do this, but
Yeah.
you keep your
No,
numbers.
I mean, I have no problem
I mean,
with it.
Scott's more than capable of putting his list together, taking to the committee and say, this is it. Who prioritizes is the question. When it goes-
I really think that he should be
Well-
the main role in it, because he is public safety.
Well,
and
that
a
was
lot
just
of
an
this is-
example. I'm
Yeah,
not taking off.
no, I just really, he has a lot of great input. And I
Yeah.
2 commissioners, treasurer, building grounds, sheriff,
Majority of
EMS.
this
That's
is
pretty good.
covered.
I take buildings and grounds only because you can communicate with him.
That's
Yeah.
true. He can
As a
provide.
decision maker, you can have the prosecutor,
Yeah.
that's entirely up to him.
Yeah, no, legal representation is smart too. If he's willing to sit it.
Yeah, but he's not gonna sit out very many meetings, I don't think, is he? I mean, he's
We can work it around his schedule. All we can do is ask.
probably more.
So where are we landed right now?
Well, that's 5 or 6. You got 2 commissioners, treasurer, sheriff, EMS,
And Tom.
And Tom.
Tom. Want EDC or you want?
I already told you, you got 2 votes.
I know.
Departments, so you're obviously one of them that are gonna be.
I mean, I'll volunteer as one of the commissioners. I don't.
All right.
I'll do that. I don't have to.
Somebody else's vote too. Keep in mind.
I don't have to. I don't have.
And then when they get together, they can invite anybody to come sit for information. It'll just be the ones that be coordinating the effort.
Probably.
So we do have to, so who are the ones in the room that we just voluntold?
Sheriff, EMS, treasurer, Tom.
Are you guys okay with
Yes.
being part of this?
Yeah, I am.
Should
Okay.
I go ask Tom?
Tell us to tell him, just tell him.
It's easier to
Tell him.
Tell him when to be there.
And I know Cheryl's on board, right? Okay.
Need another commissioner.
Just need another commissioner.
Bill's on the building and grounds, and he's a commissioner, just throwing that out there.
Good thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dan down there, because he was on.
Well, put me on as an alternate, but I'll be following the whole process anyway.
Who's the second?
Bill just volunteered.
Bill did?
He did.
All right.
He did it very quietly. So he did.
I heard him.
I didn't hear it. A little louder, please, Bill.
Voluntold?
That's what I said.
Adam can be the alternate.
I'll be the alternate commissioner and show up when anybody else can't, but I'm, like I said, I'm gonna be following the whole process anyway. I'm sure we're gonna be talking about a lot during finance meetings and everything else, so. Okay,
I
let's,
have a question.
yes, sir.
As we start putting our list together, who then should I forward our list to this committee? Is that what?
Yeah, let's commit.
Because I put the numbers and stuff together, so basically that committee is where everything will get forwarded to.
Yep.
I would be interested, maybe send it to all the commissioners
Okay,
because we all have a stake in this.
okay.
And I don't know, Shirley, do you want a copy of that stuff or just wait till we have meetings?
Depends on if it's presented. The meetings.
Better copy Cheryl too. So, well, she's already on it. So, but I'm saying everybody who's on the committee and then all the commissioners. Because ultimately, we're gonna have to vote on this stuff.
So we're talking ARPA core committee or something?
Yeah, the ARPA committee.
ARPA committee?
Your first official duty, name your committee.
Yeah.
Do we have to have a motion about that next Wednesday to form that, or can we just do it?
You can appoint.
Oh, there we go. Appointed, done. Well, if somebody hears something, yeah, at the next meeting we'll do it.
Yeah.
Since we're all sitting here, when do we want to have a meeting?
After your farm, just a 7.
Huh?
After your,
After we form that set, we'll decide next on the 7th. Okay.
you still do a workshop if you're interested.
Well, that's-
We have a short week
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on
from
next
here
week.
to next,
Yeah,
because we're closing today.
we can decide on the 7th, the next, about have a meeting right away. Well, there's a lot of good information today, that's for sure.
No, I gotta hand it to everybody who came prepared. Way to go. That's very nice. So did you guys set a date? Well, we'll set a date at the first.
Once we form,
Yeah.
yeah, once we form it.
So I'm gonna add this to the agenda for next week for our budget committee appointments.
Yeah. Yeah. Please. I got something else. Oh, yeah.
You have something else?
Yep. If you can.
Yeah, is there any more for this topic? ARPA topic? All right.
Yeah, if I may, I think as everybody knows, we've been for a few years now trying to work out, with the USDA, some kind of agreement on the building down the street. And, I think it was like 3 years ago, they came back where it was gonna go to auction. That was it. We couldn't afford the money that they wanted for it, and they were gonna go to auction. Well, since that time, that auction fell away, probably because of COVID and that. A couple months ago, we had a Zoom meeting with quite a few of the representatives from USDA, our new forester out of Oscoda and all that. And basically, when we ended that Zoom meeting, it came up that their hands were tied and that it had to go through a auction process. And we said, okay, if that's what it has to be, that has to be. Well, we received an email, let me find it here, from Ben Weesey, who is our new forester out of Oscoda. And Ben is really has the mindset, if I can find it here, that he wants this building to be here, wants to stay within the county, wants to stay in county hands. And the USDA really does not, they have deemed it unusable, not unusable, but they've deemed it unnecessary for their in their process and they want to get rid of it. Make a long story short, I can't find the email. We received an email from Ben saying that they've now ditched the process of auctioning it off, and they would like a letter of intent from us on the possible work in good faith on the possible purchase of that building. And the one caveat of it is that the tower and the equipment there would stay there for whatever, forever or whatever. So Tom Weichel, yes, I met with Tom, and Tom has now started a letter of intent for us.
But
that we get. Go ahead.
But he has so many questions. We
we
went over it yesterday.
Yeah, he has so many
His
questions,
letter,
but he just basically, I just met with him yesterday, and he started putting together a letter of intent. Did not have the information on our special use permit that we are signed up with them through 2033. So anyway, I think everybody just needs to know that as commissioners, you have a copy. You've sent you a copy of the potential letter of intent. Tom's got more information that Carolyn gave him yesterday, and I just went over it with him again this morning. And we're working on this letter of intent that sooner than later. I mean, we need to get this thing done and get it down to them. I mean, it's basically saying we got to cover all our bases, but it's basically saying that, yeah, we'd like to work in the possibly being able to get that building. I mean, when we left the Zoom meeting there a couple months ago, the one lady that's in charge basically said, I'm really sorry. We have to follow the auction process, but if I had anything to do with it, we'd just give it to you or give it to you for $1. I mean, but we have to follow this process. That's changed now. They're not going through the auction process. So where this goes, we don't know, but we have this possible letter of intent. Like Carolyn said, there's a lot more stuff to be done on it. I don't know how in depth it has to be just on this initial saying that we want to pursue this, but
what is your understanding from the Forest Service regarding the tower?
It's right in the email. Did I forward you that email? I can't
Yeah, I
find
got
it.
it. They want to use it.
You got it, Doug?
They want to be able to utilize it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still want to be able to.
Do they want us to own it and have them utilize it?
No, basically, no. They want to continue to maintain it. But
Are they going to maintain ownership?
no, we would own it. The county would own the tower.
Then who's going to pay? One of the questions that came up was we got an insurance liability issue. Well, we need to make sure we don't have an insurance liability issue. And are they, I mean, maybe that's the cost of the property is for us to pay the liability.
Yeah,
in
so
perpetuity.
all the email says is as we proceed with the direct sale of the old Harrisville district office, we are changing direction for the auction process. Our regional officer is requiring that we obtain a letter of intent for the county, basically expressing the county's intent to proceed in good faith with a direct sale and allow the Forest Service continued indefinite use of the radio tower. That doesn't say anything in there if they want us to buy it. They're not saying if it's going to keep it them. It's pretty vague at what that says, but that's what it says. Now that's another question that as we have these questions, we can call and say, hey, are you guys wanting to keep it like it is now, or you want us to purchase it? You know, that's another things that have to go on. I think basically it's let everybody know things have changed down there. It could be a great thing for the county if this all works out. And so we need to not just let it sit on our desk. We need to continue on with this thing. And Doug's had some conversation. Yeah. Doug has been in contact with Ben as far as through our EDC, and Ben has communicated between Doug and I on this. And Doug, if you got something to say, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I read the letter from Tom yesterday.
Yeah.
And I think that more than suffices for the moment. Right as it sits, it shows the good faith and all. There's a lot of things in there that need to be filled in.
Oh, sure. Out,
yeah. But we're not in the purchase agreement stage or anything like that. So all they're looking for is to take that to somebody in Milwaukee and say, look, we don't have to go to auction. We have somebody that's interested. We want to pursue this. It's called a direct sale as opposed to them going to auction.
Right.
And they got the auction. It was pretty interesting to us because when he said, well, we got to go through the auction, so we need to get an appraisal, which they were going to pay for all that. And I went in the USDA auction site And the properties I saw in there were not dissimilar to what's down here, but they were going for like 3,000, 5,000, 8,000. It's like, they probably looked at that and said, we don't want to go there because it sets a price. So they may be interested in, we don't know what the price point's going to be. We don't know what the terms would be. We don't know what's possible in terms of what the county can do here. Although it seems to be a good asset for how it's being used right now. So the goal.
Could any of that COVID money being used to purchase it?
I don't know if it would be able to be used for purchase, but I do know that it could be used for upgrading.
Right.
And those buildings are in desperate need of upgrading.
Yeah. And the reason I'm looking at through the COVID situation, from my point of view, from a COVID situation is the county is obligated to give MSU a space to operate from. If that building ever was to leave, I already have a backup plan to have to bring all those people into this building.
Right, that was another driver.
You know, and that was the thing, is we have to supply them the space. So I'm just wondering if we could tie the two together.
Well, we had that conversation and, you know, and Craig, our past chairman, had been in contact while he was chairman with Bergman's office, and Bergman's office has been in the background of this going on. And they've actually, that question actually came up and has been presented, and they were looking at that if any of this ARPA money could be used for that too. So there's a lot of things kind of going on. I think the main thing is that I guess we just have to look at ourselves as how in depth does this letter of intent have to be at this point in time? Or does it have to be, we're definitely want to be in good faith and go on there, but there's a lot of things that have to be answered as you get into a purchase of this thing.
Right. The only question I would ask Tom is, I mean, he covered all the bases in there.
Yeah.
Is there a way to do a sort of not downgraded, but a watered down version that says, yes, we're interested. This is a letter of intent, and we'll solve the issues as it goes along. Or just give them that letter as it is and let them respond. Let's not negotiate with ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, so they're asking for a letter of intent. Here it is. There's obviously a lot of details that aren't resolved yet.
Carolyn, what do you?
Well, the two biggest things that Tom and I talked about yesterday were the who's really going to own the tower, which you're saying we would, but who's going to do the maintenance on it? Do they want an easement to get to it? I mean, if there's failure of the equipment, where is that liability? And if it's in perpetuity, maybe one avenue might be, and I don't know what the legal obligations would be for this, but we might buy that for $1 and cover all liability costs right.
Well, as we said, the email's vague about the tower. That's a question that we could ask.
Right.
But I'm going to say,
on this,
I think they're just asking, are you still interested in?
Yeah.
Yes,
I would agree. I think the letter was more than we need to do.
Yes, because all those other.
That's what I think.
All those other questions would be in your negotiations when you get ready to do
I
more.
think, and I tried to call Ben again yesterday, got his voicemail. All I did is leave a message saying that, hey, we're working on this letter of intent. We'll get back with you. But we could definitely contact him and say, hey, how in depth do you want this thing?
Right.
At this point in time, we're definitely all in agreement that we want to pursue this in good faith.
Right.
Or what, because there's a lot of questions about that tower, the insurance, everything.
The other thing that Tom brought up and he was very concerned over, and I share his concern, and that's the environmental status.
Right.
Making sure that there is an environmental study done and we know what the status is now, so we don't become responsible for past.
Right.
But that might be in stage two. The stage one would be to say, yes, we're interested.
Oh, absolutely.
And stage two would be starting the
So we don't want to
negotiations.
lose sight of that.
Right.
No. Anyway, that was all. But whatever you think.
Well, we can't really do any direction on it until next Wednesday anyway, so.
Well, we just need to get it prepared, that's for sure.
Right.
I'd like to see it. We have something
For the
prepared
meeting.
for next Wednesday that we can act on this and get it going. I mean, they've reversed their thinking. As far as the county, if it needs to be as general as possible. Yeah, we want to pursue this in good faith and
And let it
let's go.
Right, I
You
think
know,
that's.
You know, and that's basically all it needs to be.
Right,
There's a
because
lot
an
of
intent,
questions
you can
you-
always screw up throw away a letter of intent, even in real estate. I mean, once you say you're
Yeah, it's just a
intending,
letter of
it's
intent.
just
Yeah.
intent. Well, I've changed my mind. I don't want to
Yeah.
do it. And it's
Right.
not binding at that point, if I'm not mistaken
So,
on that, right?
good call.
Pretty much.
You want
Yeah,
to
I'm done with it.
You want to call Ben or you want me to call Ben?
Why don't you, why don't you guys give him a call
Okay.
and find out exactly what he thinks we need to have in there?
Okay.
Because it was kind of vague what he said.
Yeah.
And
Because
if
we can
that's,
read it a bunch
if
of
that's what he wants is vagueness, we got lots of vagueness.
times. But just to give everybody an update, that's.
Yes.
I agree with Carol on that. One little part that he went yellow with, that study.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
another,
Oh, environmental, yeah.
that could be really, really expensive and might show us that we don't want that building.
Well, as long as we have something that says we are no longer responsible, or we, not no longer, but we
Anything
would
that-
not be responsible for prior
Right.
things,
Then it's
That
good.
would-
our
one to do.
obligation begins as of
Yeah,
today,
that's what
which
they
is
did
what's been done with most of them.
Yeah, that's what we just done down here at the support center.
Yeah.
That's all.
Hopefully,
Okay.
we wouldn't have to go through another brownfield.
Okay, any other comments, concerns, issues?
I do
Okay.
have a comment.
Oh, sure.
Sorry, I just want to inform you all that, reading through the information, the updated information last night to kind of refresh the townships. Just reiterate to your townships, the importance and the timeliness of making sure you accept this money. There's, they have the 3 options, but there is, starting the 7th, I believe, there's supposed to be a new system where they can request the funds. But they have to make sure they do their homework and do the other processes. And I have sent correspondence to all the townships and all the treasurers. Just hoping that they will consider, just keep that in mind, starting after the holiday, there should be more information coming out for the individual townships to apply to the state of Michigan for the
Anything
funding.
you've read, is there a date for the application process?
Yes, it said beginning July 7th, once completed. On the elite
But
center.
no drop dead deadline for the application.
No, they don't have the application process
Has
process
anybody
yet
heard-
For the townships, yeah.
for the townships.
That's for the township.
Are any of the townships intending on turning it down that we've heard?
I've heard a couple rumors, yes.
Different,
Yeah.
different
But you know,
questions.
Should,
It's
should we target those townships to talk to them and?
I don't think we should single anybody out. I think we should just approach everybody.
You could get something out to all of them that just says, just stand down for a minute.
And I didn't know if I wanted to mention it while the light's still green, but, offer assistance if they really want to help them through the process of getting, signed up, so.
But the 143,000 that we, well, 139,000 we got, there were a lot of counties that did not go after that money. In northern, not a lot, but
You mean in, what money?
the one money we just finished getting,
Oh, for
Block
the,
grant.
yeah.
the CDBG money. And I couldn't believe there were counties that bypassed $150,000, $200,000. They didn't want to do the work.
Well, grants are, exactly right, do the work. Grants are a pain in the butt.
Yeah, here's another, we'll discuss that at town, or at the committee.
Yeah, I know, all the tracking and stuff. The most funnest part of grants. Okay, anything else? All right, we'll adjourn, or whatever you call a workshop.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Good information.